Cool. So welcome. For anybody that doesn't know me or didn't see me in the first call, my name is Kira and I work with a company called Forward Moves, and we are a creative and digital agency for personal trainers and online coaches. So helping them with everything within their business, setting up and all that sort of thing. So I do just want to ask as well for the people that are here, if you are looking at running a challenge, obviously probably what you're looking at doing for being here, are you going to be looking at wanting to run a passive style challenge, or are you wanting to do like a personalized challenge where you'll have like personalized programs, setting up like everything for that specific type of person? Or will you be running like passive, meaning the programs are there for them to choose from, going through the same workouts? Are you using like the studio style programs, all of that sort of thing? Cool. Passive. All right. Same workouts. Okay. Most people are going with like passive challenge, which is cool. Yeah, cool. Okay. That's really good to know. Especially when running through how to set everything up. Not necessarily like workout challenges. It depends on what challenge you're doing. I guess it would kind of be for workout challenges, because that way you can set up like the studio programs and everything like that, where I guess if you're setting people up that's nutrition based, then you would have to put it in for each person. So yeah, I guess setting it up passive wise for like programming and everything would probably make a little bit more sense. But yeah, that's really good to know that everybody is sort of doing it passive wise. So another thing on that is, are you going to be using like the studio programs, or will you just be assigning them a program? It depends if you do have, or you are using the studio edition within Everfit, I guess, as well. Cool. Studio, creating a program, amazing. Yeah, studio programs are pre-made ones. So they're pre-made ones that's like the Netflix style programs that people can choose whichever program that they want to have and be working on. Studio programs are only in the studio plan as well. You can just have pre-made programs that you can assign to people, but they don't get to like chop and change as they can in like the studio programs.
I was jumping back in just to provide a little bit of clarity here, because I think there's a bit of confusion. So we have two different things. We have studio programs, which is very much like a pre-built workout and works the same thing, where it's purely just, you fill in your sets, your reps, all that sort of thing. And then we have the on-demand resources, which are more like your Netflix-style videos. So, things like yoga, maybe a stretching video, things like that. So just in case there's a bit of confusion there, just wanted to jump in and clarify for a few people.
Thank you. Okay, cool. All right. Well, those are some good things to know before going through it as well. It is cool to see that like most people are wanting to do like a passive style programming as well for their challenges as well. So we will get into it. So I'm going to be sort of running through like a little bit to do with like passive versus personalized challenges and like how to set that up. And then setting up your packages and sequences within Everfit, and then sort of talking about if you're using external packages, a payment platform outside of Everfit as well, and how to set that up, and like how to create some automations using Zapier, but that would require having the additional add-on of Zapier as well. So going over the payment options. So if you are looking at using the internal payments within Everfit, you do want to make sure that you've got all of this set up and ready to go. And then looking at making the different style of packages that you will have. So if you're wanting to have different options for paid in full and subscription style ones, like if you want to have different ones set up, making sure that you've got those with the settings attached for those packages as well. The only limitation on using the internal packages within Everfit for a challenge is it's an immediate sign up. So with the sequence starting the following Monday, which I will jump into Everfit just so I can show you as well. So you know exactly what I am talking about. Cool. So within Everfit, it's got the packages and the sequences. So the packages, when you do share them with the payment links, it will start them immediately from when they do sign up to that package. So that is like a slight limitation if you're wanting to showcase the package, get people signed up and say your challenge isn't starting for like another couple of weeks. You can put like a trial time on the package so that they're kind of in there for free for a certain amount of days or weeks. You just don't want them to like cancel within that time or anything like that. And then the only other thing that I would suggest when doing this is because you can only select the initiate sequence is on purchase date or it's on the following Monday, you can't set it up for like multiple weeks after. The only thing that I would say is like it's great to get them into the app, get them logged in, make sure that they're all there for it. But then what you can do is if you've got a auto flow that's going to be attached to this, is when you create the auto flow, you start it from a specific date. So when you make it, you can choose exact date, and then that way when you are setting up the auto flow to align with your challenge starting, then you would put everything in the auto flow from that date. So they're still getting logged in and they're getting everything, but then the messages and any resource attachments and prompts and things like that that you have are just in line with specific dates throughout the challenge. So that's another way to kind of get around the setup of that. So it's all just dependent on like how you want that to run. And then, so that's kind of using the internal packages within Everfit. And then the other one would be using external packages to Everfit. So if you're utilizing something just like a Stripe that's outside Everfit or an external payment platform like Nui, which is a big one here for us. So what you can do with that is you can assign automations for people to be added into Everfit if you do have the additional add-on of Zapier, which should be in here. So if you do have Zapier added on, you will need to have this as well to be able to automate anything with outside payment platforms. So it just depends on what you're sort of wanting to do, how much you're wanting to automate, all that sort of thing. So most of you are wanting to run a passive style challenge, then I would highly recommend you have the Zapier add-on and have your add-ons set up within Zapier and your automations. So I will run through an example with you using Zapier and how to set it up. There is a slight limitation with this, with the onboarding flow that gets selected when you are setting them up through a Zapier automation for when they get invited. But what you can do is set the default for the onboarding flow. So let's just chat about onboarding flows quickly and having that set up. And then I will go through Zapier and then having the correct, like having the right settings so that when somebody does sign up, they get assigned that onboarding flow. And then it would just be, if you do have any non-challenge members signing up, that you're adding them in manually and selecting the right onboarding flow for them when they're being assigned. So under your onboarding flows, so making sure that you have a challenge one created. So let's just make one now as well. So we will have a challenge one set up. I'm guessing if it's passive, you won't want them to have messages turned on if you're not wanting them to talk to you. Otherwise, like if you do still want them to talk to you, you can obviously have that turned on as well. And then setting up any onboarding forms that you want them to have on. So we've already got one in here that is just like a signature T's and C's kind of onboarding flow. I see in the chat that someone said you can have multiple onboarding flows. you do need to have automation add-on to have multiple onboarding flows. So you do need to have that. And then you can select multiple onboarding flows. So once you've purchased once you've published your first onboarding flow, it will then take you to this screen here, and you can add in more onboarding flows for different types of people. So from here, what you can do is have a form that's specifically for your challenge members. So let's just say we've got one here. I'll also take you through quickly what I mean by having the T's and C's and the onboarding flow. And in a form is we paste the terms and conditions into the form for the signature field, and then they'll have to sign off at the bottom there. So that's what we have done for T's and C's before. So you can change this over to be the specific T's and C's for the challenge signups. And then back into the onboarding flow. So in here, you would just select, we're going to just go the T's and C's because we don't really need any other information from them because if they're just doing passive. The only other question I would put in there is we have spoken about in the first call is if they are selecting a program, then you can assign a program from the form that they have filled out. So I did run through this in the Q&As at the end of the first one, but in the form, you can have something set up that asks them a question of like, what program are they wanting to have? And then you can set the conditional limitations from that in the onboarding flow. So let's just say we've got this one here, and then you've got 4 different programs for them to choose from. We'll just put in the options here and then make it required. And then you can assign them the automatic programs from there as well. So let's just do that so I can show you in the onboarding flow. So in here, when you've got assignments for the particular type of program, so you can assign using a trigger. So we will do this one here, and then program assign using a trigger, which is this one here. So program, then you can say if they've selected number 1, they'll have program number 1. If they've selected number 2, they've got like their home program or whatever it is like that. So you can do something like that. So it's really specifically tailored for them and what program they've chosen for the challenge. And then you're not having to assign them programs or anything like that if you're not using the studio style or like the Netflix style or anything like that. So that's something that you can do there, selecting their forum that they're going in to be added into as well, and then any resource collections that you're wanting to add on to their challenge style, which I would recommend having a challenge resource folder set up just for them. And then that will just be what they get added to when they come on board as well. You can then also put the auto flow attached to this as well, so you're not having to add them into it manually or anything like that, since it is all passively run. I will just go and make that other auto flow live so I can choose from it as well, since this is going to be like a specific date. So this is the one that I would recommend to have if you are having a passively run challenge, because then you're not needing to worry about like what date people sign up from to be added into the auto flow at the correct date and things like that. So that will just be there ready for them to go. So then we will just add in the auto flow to be that by the exact date. And then that is all ready to go for it to be published. Then what I was talking about before about making sure that like using Zapier to add people in, it will read any subscriptions. Say Nui is the payment platform that you're using. Zapier will read any new subscription that has been created, will invite them into Everfit, and then you can't actually choose which onboarding flow they get added into through Zapier. So the way that I have sort of gone about this is making the challenge onboarding flow the default for your workspace. So if this is your default onboarding flow, then anybody who signs up and gets added in will automatically be assigned this onboarding flow. So that means that throughout the challenge signups, you can make this your defaulted onboarding flow. And then anybody that signs up will be assigned that. And then let's just say you're adding in like any other premium clients or one-to-one clients during this time. When you add them in, you can just make sure that you change the onboarding flow to suit that type of client when you're adding them in, just to make it that little bit easier for yourself, since that one you'll be uploading manually, which will really help. Cool. So I'm just going to check, are there any questions specifically on that? That sort of answers Will's question about onboarding manually and automatic flow. Perfect. Is there any way to trigger feature to trigger an auto flow? For example, if they indicate struggle meeting protein, or trigger auto flow video course about how to get more protein? I don't believe so. I don't think it would add in anything into their autoflow video course, but the only automations that you can do in the onboarding flow are to do with the conditional assignments are only for the programs or the community forum. So they're the only ones for the conditional assignments. It's not anything to do with like the autoflow or anything like that. Auto flows are in the automation add-on as well for Susanna's question. Cool. Okay. Cool. And then the other thing, if you're not wanting to use Zapier for it, is you can add them into Everfit prior manually if you're wanting to. And you can just have them set up basically within the app and not add them into any like resource folders or auto flows and things like that if you're wanting to add them in manually. But if you are wanting to run it passively, then I would highly suggest utilizing Zapier to do all of that work for you, because then there's much less that you need to do. Cool. So we will jump into the automations and setting up the packages inside Everfit. So I know that we have run over this before, and I have already kind of gone through it a little bit already, is making sure that you've got them set up with either monthly or weekly or pay in full, and having the different options set up for your clients to be able to choose from. I would highly recommend having like a monthly style package, only because that definitely makes sure that like they're there for the month. I know that you can do like not allowing self-cancellation, all of that sort of stuff. So really highly recommend going through your settings and making sure what they are doing within the package is what you want them to be able to do, because you can have it set up that like the client can self-cancel and all that sort of thing. But when it's for a challenge, I would definitely have that turned off. So make sure that's off. Archive the client when the subscription period ends. That means you're not having to like archive anybody manually at the end of the challenge. Can be a good thing to not archive them though, because if you're trying to like upsell them into one-to-one coaching after that, really helps too. Cool. And then we did kind of run over checking the settings and how you're wanting it to have set up with either the following Monday or immediate and that sort of thing. So making sure you're going over all of those. If you're wanting to use the Everfit subscriptions and you're not wanting them to get added into it straight away because you're not wanting them to be charged and the challenge is a few weeks out, you can create something like a simple challenge interest form externally to Everfit. And then when it's ready to go to start, like that week or the following week, then you could like send them the link to sign up as soon as it's close to the start of the challenge date. And then what I did mention before as well is having a free trial period added onto it as well. So in the pricing of the package, you can have that it's got a trial period. And then you can have how long you want that trial period to be for before their payments start. So it can kind of get them into the app and ready to go before the challenge. And then, yeah, they're in there. But yeah, you just don't want them to like have access to too much, especially because it's like on a trial period. So you don't want them to like cancel within the trial period either, after they've like seen whatever you've given them within the app as well. Cool. And then, so external packages to Everfit as well. I highly recommend using Zapier. So I will actually quickly jump into my Zapier so I can show you a little bit about it. This is the automation that we have in Zapier that's been created. So I have already linked my Nui payment account. So what you can do from here is that whenever a subscription is created, it will trigger in Everfit that you can choose what event you would like it to do. So pretty much from here, we would go to, I think it's got, yeah, invite new client. And then you'll be able to have it so that the automation runs that whenever there's a new subscription created, it invites them into Everfit. The only thing with this is you want to make sure that you don't have like multiple different things on your Nui account or payment account. You will just need to like filter them as well if you wanted to, which you can do. You can do it like by package name and things like that as well. But you do need the upgraded payment option on Zapier to be able to do like the filtering options. So you can just do a 2-step on Zapier in the free account, but you can't do like a multi-step in Zapier. But I will show you what it looks like to be able to do that if you are wanting to upgrade it, just to make it that little bit better. Of it will only automatically invite them when they're choosing this type of package. So what I would do from here is then add in the filter step in Zapier, that it only continue if I think it should be offering ID. Yeah, so the offering ID or the package name, which is probably better. So the offering name, and then you would just put in here exactly matches and then paste the exact name of your package in here, and then it will only continue to the next step if the package name on like your Nui account exactly matches what you've put in there, so that it will only automatically invite those people into Everfit. And then having that onboarding flow selected as your default onboarding flow, it should select that when they get invited into it, so you're not having to do anything for the onboarding flow for it to change. And then I would also set up a secondary Zap that archives them when their payment finishes. So when I would change this over, I would make a new one, and then I would go when a subscription ends, then I would go, you can still do it by package name, and then you can go archives instead of creates. So you would just go to this one here and you would choose archive clients, so that it automatically archives them when the challenge ends and they're no longer paying for that package. Cool. So that is just like a quick run through of Zapier. Cool. So also making sure that as much as you have done in the onboarding flow means less work for yourself, and that it's got everything in here that you need it to have, so that there's no work for you to do, especially if you're wanting to have a passively run challenge. And then going into programming side of things. So as I was talking about before, like having the different types of programs for your clients to be able to choose from within the challenge. So like I was mentioning before about like the studio programs for people to be able to choose from, you can select these in the onboarding flow for them to be able to have within their challenge, so that they can have those to choose from if you're not having like specific programs assigned to them. So making sure that you've got all of those set up and ready to go. Or if you're just having, you can pop singular workouts in here for them as well. Or if you're just creating your programs, that you'll be assigning them as the singular style program choice, rather than being able to have the multi programs set up in here for them to be able to select which one that they would like to choose. So just the choice of what sort of style you're wanting to do with that as well. And then, yeah, so you obviously can also have the choice of like a personalized challenge as well, if that's what you're wanting to run, which you would obviously give them much more of a form to fill out in regards to like creating their program for them. So if you are wanting to have something like that, then I would definitely recommend having a more in-depth form filled out for their onboarding form, and then being able to get that to them before the challenge starts. And then making sure that you're going through all of your settings of your auto flow and your default settings, making sure that if you're not wanting them to be able to message you, that you've got your messages turned off. If it's like a contactless challenge, but then of course they would have the community forum. I would also recommend going into your community forum before the challenge starts, and you can schedule as many posts as you want to, which is really helpful for you to be able to do less throughout the challenge as well. So coming in here and scheduling, like say you've got a message that you want to send out to them or something that you want to ask them every single week, then I would come into the community forum and schedule all of those out ready to go, so that you're not having to then always remember to like post in there and stuff like that. Like you've always got it there. And then making sure that you've got like your leaderboard connected, and that you have your auto flow connected to the community group that they're going to be in as well, which creates like much more hype and excitement within the community group for people to be able to talk about like their auto flow connected and all of that sort of thing as well. So like their steps counted and or whatever challenge, like mini challenge that you can run throughout the challenge. So you can do like total steps counted, or let me go into the auto flow so I can show you more about the leaderboard options that you can choose from. In this one here, I think it's under, sorry. This one. Oh, yeah. So let's just remove this one here. So you can add in like different sorts of leaderboards for different dates as well. So it can be really exciting to change up the leaderboard throughout the challenge as well. So a really great way to make sure that you've got everybody connected to the same auto flow to then be in the same community group, so that everybody's in the one leaderboard for your challenge as well, and having like different ones for different targets, because people will be better or worse at different things. So changing it up for them is really beneficial. And then, cool. Okay. I'm just going to jump back into the chat and see if there's any other questions that have come up through any of that. Leaderboards, yeah, you can only have one set up at one time, and it's just just specific dates, but you can't have like multiple different leaderboards at once, I'm pretty certain. Sorry, Danny said, I've created an onboarding flow and auto flow, then setting up a payment package. It says to set up a sequence. So you need to do both, as it seems to be adding in the same info. You don't need to add all of the same things into the package if you have it in the auto flow, as they'll already be received it. It just depends if you want them to only have access to those resources and everything. Say you've got from like the following Monday in your package, and you don't want them to have like the resources and the auto flow and everything until the following Monday, then I would take it out of your onboarding flow, because they'll get it in the onboarding flow instead of waiting until the following Monday to get everything. But up to you. If you've got it in your onboarding flow, then you don't really necessarily have to have it in your package, because they'll get it in the onboarding flow. That is everything that I have for this webinar for part 2. Like Rob has posted in the chat as well, that there is a recording of the first webinar if you're wanting to go through that, if you did miss it. And in the next webinar with Ash, we'll be going through the marketing of your challenge and the auto flow as well. So
cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. Like I said, keep an eye out for that email as well if you haven't filled the survey out. And if not, we'll hopefully catch you in 2 weeks for the third and final part.
thank you.